Well, hey guys, welcome to the podcast. This is Life in the Peloton, presented by our partners, MAP. You can hear it in my voice. I'm excited because I have just got back from the park. I've been up there with my mate, Trav Smith. We have been mowing in the cross-country course, and I mean the cyclocross and the cross-country run course up at the park. I'm so excited because the weather is awesome and everything's coming together for the Dirty Docker this weekend, the 12th, 13th of October. Yes, guess what? This whole podcast is going to be dedicated to the Dirty Docker, the inaugural cycling and running festival being put on by Life in the Peloton, which is so exciting. We've been working towards this the last 12 months. We did the test event this time last year and the idea was created. I thought it'd be great to just sort of flesh out what the Dirty Docker is. Look, I know everyone can't get to the Dirty Docker. You may be overseas, you may be away, but I thought if you can't get there, at least hear about where this idea came from and all the events that we've got going on here. We've got cross-country running, we've got cyclocross, but we've also got the premier event, which is going to be called the Cobawsome, which is the gravel event. Gravel has gone mad around the world, especially here in Australia as well, and I've jumped on the bandwagon, but I'm trying to do things a little bit different at the Dirty Docker because we're doing it all over the whole weekend. We're combining everything together. My idea was to get everyone up here to Lancefield, camp on Saturday night, create a bit of a festival vibe, and then we go from there. We get into the events. Look, we're going to unpack it much more in this episode. We're not only just going to unpack the event Dirty Docker, but like I said before, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into each of those disciplines and understand where they came from. Go back and understand what cross-country running is. Find out a little bit of the history of cyclocross, a little bit about the Dirty Docker cyclocross, the Cross Vegas course, and then do a little bit of a deep dive into gravel, the gravel phenomenon, where it's going, where it's come from, and what people are doing in gravel. Coming up tomorrow, the 10th of October, we have got the Specialized Dirty Docker launch party over at the Map Lab. We're going to be over there having a bit of a fun time. We're going to be eating some great snacks from Terra Twilight. They're going to be catering. So if you're in Melbourne, get down because you're going to get a chance to sample the Dirty Pale, the second Life in the Peloton beer that we've done with Bridge Road Brewers. It is going to be the first time I am trying one as well. So get down to the Map Lab tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Thursday, the 10th of October, to get your rider pack. If you're entered in the Dirty Docker, you will be able to get your rider pack, which has got lots of great goodies in there. We've got goodies in there from Specialized, of course, Maxis, Scratch Labs, and if you are there tomorrow, you are going to get a special gift from MAP. And I can tell you, there is kit involved. There's going to be jerseys. There's going to be other stuff as well. You've got to get down tomorrow night to register, or do you pick up your rider pack tomorrow to get the special drop from MAP as well. That is exclusively tomorrow. You will not get that if you pick up your rider pack up at the Dirty Docker in Lancefield. You'll get all those other goodies, but MAP are doing a special edition drop tomorrow at the launch party. So make sure you get down for that. That is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, trialing the Dirty Pale. Oh, it's going to be so dirty. Guys, I'm not going to go on anymore. Sit back and enjoy this. The deep dive into the inaugural Specialized Dirty Docker. Let's go. Let's get ready. If you haven't entered, there's still time.
Mountain Bike Eliminator, South Africa, Peter Maritzburg.
And that's, of course, is Paul van der Ploeg. He is just reminding us that in 2013, he was world champion in that discipline. Paul, good to be here, mate. We're in the lab, actually. We're in the Map Lab down in your hood. You're a Collingwood man.
This is my sort of home base these days. I grew up in Mount Beauty in northeast Victoria and then, moved here for university. But it's great to be on the pod a bit more officially this time. I've been a guest before, but only on the trails, I think.
Yeah, that's right. We're out at Mount Macedon. You were showing me the ropes. But now we're sort of meeting in the middle because what we're doing is we're here to talk Dirty Docker.
Yes.
You are going to be the voice at the event. That's why I thought it'd be great to have you here. You're going to be up there You've got a lovely voice, a lovely loud voice.
Yeah, good.
Give us a bit of
good
a
voice for radio, they say.
And I thought it'd be good just to run through this idea, this event, get everyone sort of hyped up for it, and meet in the middle, because what I'm talking about is gravel. I'm a roadie.
Yes.
You're a mountain biker. We've both done a bit of each other's field. I'd say you've probably done a bit more road than I've done mountain biking, but
you've thrown your hat in the ring a few times now, but yes,
we're meeting in the middle at the gravel.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this morning when you asked me to jump on, and I was like, yeah, gravel riding is really good for bringing people from multiple disciplines. You can be a mountain biker and do gravel, or you can be a road rider and happily do gravel, whereas previously it was quite a big leap for a road rider to just jump into a mountain bike event. So it's exciting. The Dirty Docker this weekend, how did this come to action?
Well, I'm up in Lancefield. Land Vegas, as it's better known.
Yeah, I didn't actually know where Lancefield was until I Googled it last week, and you've been living there for years. So where is Lancefield?
Well, it's up in the north of Victoria. Well, as you head out of Melbourne, you start to head north, and you just go past the airport and just keep following your nose up towards Mount Macedon.
Sort of towards Bendigo.
Yes, sort of towards Bendigo. Keep going and veer off and head up past Romsey, and then you'll come to a quaint little part of the world. It's at Lancefield.
So it's just on the other side of Mount Macedon, and it's right near Hanging Rock.
It is. It's famous up that area for, it's on the edge of the gold fields, the Golden Triangle. It's not quite in the triangle, but there was some gold around there.
Get into the history.
Look, Mount Macedon is known for a lot of things. Hanging Rock also.
Yes.
Mount Macedon's known for, they've got some great hiking up there. It's fantastic rock climbing.
Bit of a berg. I got dropped up Mount Macedon climb in Sun Tour one year. First climb of the first stage. I was like, awesome. I'm in Gruppetto.
It's a brutal climb. It's a brutal climb. But
why Lancefield?
The Dirty Docker, I just feel like I was up there riding around, moved up there a couple of years ago after I retired, and I was riding around and discovering all these roads, going, wow, this is fantastic. I was doing a lot of events out there, a lot of great events around Australia, and I thought, I don't know. I don't like hearing about many people coming up and riding these roads, these dirt roads, and just like anyone, discovering gravel and off-road. And I was discovering mountain bike at the time too, so that was taking me up into the Cobawsome Forest, which is just in my backyard, a state forest. Fantastic roads. I'm thinking, there's got to be an event up here. And I guess it's like anyone. It's sort of like the cafe theory. Oh yeah, I could run a cafe.
Yeah.
And events. Yeah, I should run an event. This is a great idea. And everyone kept telling me, don't do it, Mitch.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
It's a lot of time, a lot of energy, and not much reward.
But I want to do it. And I want to create the Dirty Docker because I just love the area that I'm riding in. I want to show everyone my piece of the world, which is Lancefield. It's a small town. There's not much going on there, but that's the best part about it.
You're calling it Lance Vegas. Where does this come from? Is this just you're trying to make it cool?
I guess it's just me just trying to shorten names and create new names for everything. The Cobawsome, everything.
Yes. So the Cobawsome, I mean, I've never been to Lancefield, so this will be my first time in that town. What do we got to expect? The Cobawsome is the forest that we ride through, and there's a big motorbike scene, is there?
There is, yeah. The Cobawsome is the state forest there. It's a fantastic forest just on the back of Lancefield. Lancefield itself is a small town. We've got a pub, we've got a brewery, the most two important things. We've got a bakery, we've got a post office. It's a beautiful main street, and we've got the market there every 4 weeks, the third weekend of the month.
Are you running for mayor of Lancefield?
What I'm trying to paint the picture is, it's got a few things there, but it doesn't have everything. But that's what I love about it, is that it is really back to the basics. And that's what we got at Dirty Docker, is come up, camp, and just hang out with mates. So
camp or glamp?
Or glamp. Or pull or roll your trailer up.
Yeah.
And caravan.
You can full caravan it up there.
You can. That's what I was trying to create, because when I was thinking, I'll come back to your question about Cobawsome in a sec, but when I was trying to create, I was thinking, how do we differentiate this from other events? And other events I've done, I've liked them, but once I've done them once or twice, I'm sort of like, well, do I need to go back and ride that course again? I've done it. Why come back to the Dirty Docker? I thought, well, come and ride the event, sure, but it's about that Saturday night feel, and that's taking a piece out of the mountain biking world that I've been experiencing, is that went to Cape Epic this year, 2 years ago.
Time is flying.
And I just love this environment that we had around camping. And everyone was just hanging out, war stories, talking about their day, what they got coming the next day, sharing a cold beer or having a laugh, whatever it was, listening to music. that's something I hadn't experienced in the road world. Road world was very much do your race, talk maybe a little bit, and get back to your hotel.
You don't want to give away too much at the end of the race.
And gravel was sort of halfway there, but it wasn't quite the whole way there. So I thought, how do we create this at the Dirty Docker? Well, this would be great if we can camp at the park, get a few people there and build this atmosphere.
And it's 2 days, isn't it? So the Saturday kicks off. Talk us through the schedule roughly, because that's obviously part of creating this whole vibe.
I've gone overboard. Way too overboard.
Tell us.
Well, I didn't just do the gravel race, the Cobawsome.
No, that would be easy.
I thought, why don't we do a cyclocross race? That would be fun. I dipped my toe in that last year and thought, well, I'll do a cyclocross race. Don't know anything about it, but let's do one. And I thought, well, I'm running a little bit. Why don't we do a cross-country run, an old-school cross-country run? You know those ones you used to see and used to do at school where you ran on a field of grass? And
yeah, we used to run through Cowpat. We call it the Cowpat Bash out the back of Toowoomba Primary School. So, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. Get all these old-school feels to it, get it to Lancefield, and hang out in the park and provide some entertainment for Saturday. So Saturday is your cyclocross event. You've got your cross-country run, old-school cross-country run. Stay Saturday night. We've got a couple of bands coming in, so it'll be a bit of a festival vibe. We've even got a sauna there. We've got some ice buckets as well. Don't know if we'll need the ice pits, but you will after the sauna.
And fire pits, this sort of like...
Fire pits, yeah, that festival vibe. Stay the night. I don't think it'll be a crazy night because we've all got the gravel event the next day.
No, and the gravel event's sort of like the main event of the weekend. What does that involve?
Well, exactly what you said. Like we're going to head out on Sunday morning. A few people are going to come from Melbourne on the day. A few people would have stayed that night. Roll out over through the Cobawsome Forest. It's called the Cobawsome.
Cobawsome.
Mate of mine helped me come up with that name, Andy Fixo. Cheers, buddy. And we go through there. I'm very much leaning on my gold standard of gravel events, which is the Beechworth Granite Classic.
Yep.
These guys, Ben, Cam, up at Beechworth, they do this event. It is premium. If you haven't been up there, highly suggest getting up there. And I'm trying to nitpick the great things that I love from that event and recreate it here. They've got some fantastic sort of aid stations or activations, as they call them, where you got coffee, you got music. So it's not a race. Go as fast or as slow as you want. But there's entertainment en route. So it's not just out there slugging away. Sure, it's going to be hard and adventurous, but there'll be points where you can pull up at the Scratch Labs activation. They're making quesadillas out there.
Whoa, we're giving away the activations, are we?
Yeah, we are. We're giving you a little insight.
Yeah, I do like it when you sort of get to experience these things. You're just coming along and in the middle of nowhere there'll be just something happening. I think they've really nailed that at Beechworth Granite Classic. And then if you can take that and use it in the Cobawsome, that'd be awesome.
What do you like about events when you go on to different events?
I think the community feel, like when everyone's relaxed and hanging out, hopefully we can get that on the Saturday. The cyclocross is just like bring whatever bike you want. You're not going to be getting out calipers for the tyres or anything that I've heard of. You can just bring your gravel bike and have a ride in the cyclocross. And is there also some blind date event in the afternoon or something?
There is, yeah. So like the last event of the day, coming into the first band who are going to be playing will be a blind date where
Saturday afternoon,
where you'll be the fastest rider with someone else and just go out there and have fun. It'll be a tandem. You won't even know. You may know your partner, you may not.
Oh, so it's like you're drawing the names out of the hat, amateurs and then pros.
Exactly. So every amateur will get a pro and every pro will get an amateur. And it's a relay race. All in, bit of fun and a cold beer at the end.
And on the same course as the cyclocross course.
On the same course, exactly. A 2K course.
Tag on to your teammate, they go out.
Yep.
Is it one lap or?
2 laps.
Two
one
laps.
Lap each. Yeah, 1 lap each.
See, those are the things that really, I think, people remember because you're just having a bit of fun. Like, we're all going out there riding bikes and having fun. And if you're not having fun, then something's gone wrong.
That's the thing. I think that's something that I've tried to take out of these other events. It's where I'm at in my life is that I realise I still want to push myself. I still want to have fun, have a hard ride. But the racing element for me has drifted away. I don't need to be on the podium. I don't need to be racing for money. There is still that element if people want to do that. And there will be some guys out there pushing the pedals pretty hard.
Oh, for sure. As soon as you put a group of cyclists together, most people will ride as fast and as hard as possible. And then they'll just go to the finish and be like, oh, why did I go so hard?
Yeah, exactly. Well, before we kick off anyway, tomorrow night here at the Map Lab, we're going to have the launch party.
Thursday night?
Thursday night. So
what's that involve?
That will be just me down here with a few others, grabbing a cold beer. We're going to be sampling the Dirty Pale, which is a new beer that we've done with the Beechworth Bridge Road Brewers.
Did you put any special juices in there? Some sweat?
Well, I did have the trainer set up over the boiler.
The boiler. Just sweating into the brew.
It was I was only up there for about 6 hours,
yes.
So it's not everything going in there. But yeah,
it's 90% Mitch's sweat.
Guaranteed. Every can is guaranteed to have 1% of my sweat in it. I'm going to be sampling that for the first time tomorrow night. We've got some catering down here. Come down, pick up your numbers.
Oh, nice! You can pick up
numbers, pick up your entry pack, and then a few people are going to pilgrimage up to Lancefield. I've made a route for people to ride up if they want to.
Nice.
So, look, we're all just testing the waters, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, it's only an hour up to Lancefield from here in Collingwood, so it's pretty close relative, like to some places where you're driving 6-7 hours to go for a bike ride. So quite convenient. Oh, it sounds great. I can't wait.
Well, we're going to now chat to a few people about the different of disciplines. We're going to hear from Mitch Lorcan now, who is a pretty handy runner himself.
It's a bit of a cowboy, the Mitch Lorcan, from what I've experienced.
He's a bit of a cowboy. He's a bit of a man of all trades. Cross-country skiing, he likes the bike. He's better known for his running. We're going to talk to him, help us unpack what cross-country running is. We'll speak to Rob Doyle, who also is a cyclocross man. He helped us design the course. And then we're going to meet back and have a chat about gravel with you, Vandy.
Sounds great. Let's get into it.
Here we are, running enthusiasts and running shoe specialists. You work at the running company. It's a store. They've got stores all around Australia. You work with people's feet.
We do, yes. We don't have to touch them all the time, but we specialise in fitting shoes to runners and walkers.
Let's talk cross country. Now, I'm assuming you love to do all kinds of sports. I'll let you tell us a little bit more about that. But you're backcountry skiing, you're riding horses, you're riding bikes, you run. Firstly, what the hell is cross country running, and what's your relationship with it?
So, XC it's an open air running race anywhere between 3 to 12 Ks generally, normally on grass. And they pass through natural features a lot of the time, like small water courses, mud. There's even some road sections generally. And they're kind of known for being quite hilly on sort of rolling terrain. My earliest cross-country memories are back in primary school and high school. We used to have meets every year for sort of district, zone, and then state. And then as I got older, moved into a little bit of club racing for the Harriers at Collingwood. Had a bit of a dabble in that as well.
What's the scene like? Like, what is it? Is it, because I remember from back racing cross country at primary school, you know, it's pretty hardcore. You get out there, it's hard running. Like, you know, like you said, apart from doing the ups and downs, it's so competitive. Is it a bit of an atmosphere around the outside with the crowd cheering? Is it all muddy and is it exciting, or is it pretty serious?
I would say it's authentic.
Right.
So kind of strikes a balance. Definitely pretty serious, particularly as the grades go up. But even as intense as it is, it's a lot of fun. So you can take it as seriously as you want, as with most sport. And the dynamics for an XC race kind of help enable that. It's much the same as cross, like cyclocross. You really have a really fast start where the runners are spread right out across big starting chute. And it's flat out for the first, 800 meters to a K until it sort of narrows a little bit, or the first sort of turns. And that's where the packs will get established. And then generally you'll have people, it's hard to run at a steady pace given the variety of terrains. You'll have people running just hard start to finish. You'll have spectacular blow-ups. You'll have big finishing kicks from people that read it really well. So that kind of adds to the atmosphere of it. It's got this sort of culture of being very tough in the sense that the weather can be horrible and it's often ran in winter.
What's the scene like now? Like, I get the feeling it was a really big sort of thing in the 80s and the early 90s. Everyone was doing cross country. I feel, I could be completely wrong. Is that wrong? Is it always just sort of been bubbling away in the background? Has it come and gone? Or what's the scene like now in cross country?
It's always been around. I think in the 70s and 80s, there was definitely a big burst in running in general. So it was much more part of like the common, I don't know, consciousness for running. But these days, it does bubble away in the background. Still a lot of participants. I'd say in the last couple of years, probably as busy as it has been. We'd have to check with ASFIC to get a better number on that. But I think with growth in running in the last couple of years too, it's probably exploded a little bit more. You've probably noticed a heap more people out running.
Just running in general, and that's why I sort of love tapping back into cross country, because I feel like everyone's going trail. I love my trail running. I love my sort of road running as well. But I feel like that's sort of becoming the norm. And I was like, what's different out there? What's exciting? And I was like, cross country running. And I pulled up an old clip of the Nationals up in Bathurst of all places. And it was cool. They had a hose on the course because it wasn't muddy enough, and they were making it muddy, and it looked super hard. They ran through a vineyard. I'm like, yes, this is what I want at the Dirty Docker. So run me through some of the specifics, because I feel like I've morphed this cross-country running in my mind, and I've created a course up here at the Dirty Docker, which is a bit of everything. We're using the equestrian centre for our features. We're running in a bit of sand. We've got a bit of water. We've got some jumps. Is that right? Am I even right when I'm thinking of that?
It sounds kind of perfect. Grass is ideal because that allows people to wear spikes, which is kind of your traditional footwear for cross. But, given it's on grass and it's compact and sort of well used, with equestrian, being equestrian track, you probably get away with, most running shoes on that. I'd steer away from any kind of high stack, super shoe sort of things, but spikes sound like they could be the go where you are. The other thing you need, Mitch, which I'm not sure if you came across it in your research, is you need a hair. Do you have a hair organised?
Like a hair, like a big bunny rabbit?
No, not like a bunny rabbit. I should probably explain that too. So historically, with XC, when it first started, there was a bunch of guys at a school in the UK back in the 1820s, I think it was. And they asked if they could start a fox hunting club, which is that old school thing where they have horses, dogs, and they chase after foxes, belting over hedges and paddocks and stuff. And the school obviously said no. So instead they set up a small number of crew where they sent some off to pretend to be foxes, and then the rest of them chased them around pretending to be dogs. And so the guys out the front were called hares and the guys chasing were called hounds. And that's where we get the terminology with cross. So the first lap, generally you'd send out a hare just to run off the front. And it kind of helps if the course is scarcely marked to show everyone where the turns are. So yeah, it's an important feature. It's not in all, it wouldn't be like in all cross races, but it's definitely commonplace.
Is that sort of like your pacemaker? Like when we see in the Olympic sort of track stuff, those guys who run fast and everyone tries to follow and then those bail out?
It's like a pacemaker in that they're not officially in the race, but they're not there to pace the race. They're there to sort of take everyone through the first lap of the course.
Oh, right. It's sort of like a lead bike.
Yes, exactly. So if you don't have a hare, you'll need one. Actually,
maybe I can be the hare.
You could be the hare. You just need someone that they can recognize and chase after. So
do you have to put a rabbit suit on maybe?
If you could find one, I think that'd be a really good feature as well.
You got to be pretty fast though, don't you? Otherwise they catch you.
You will have to bury yourself for those 2Ks. Hopefully no one too handy turns up, because it can be pretty intimidating when there's someone breathing down your neck. And
how much head start do you get?
Well, eyesight. You'll have to gauge it. So if you think 50 meters is going to be enough and they can still see you, that might be all you get.
It's sounding like we're going to have a hare.
You will have to have a hare.
This is ridiculous. Oh, right. Oh, that's brilliant. What other little specifics do we need? You spoke about the shoes. Is there anything else? What makes a really good cross-country runner? When we're talking about the guns now, because this is an all-inclusive cross-country run, I want to make it fun for everyone. We're going to get a few people who are really competitive. We've got the elite and we've just got the novice field. So get out there, have a run, that type of feel. What makes a good cross-country runner really?
I would say the footwear, a pair of 3-inch split shorts is generally the norm.
The old school running shorts.
Old school's good. And upstairs wool was very commonplace because cold climate. So, like the old long sleeve striped footy jumpers were kind of recycled from football, I think, into the cross season. And, the short sleeve singlets, basically any running attire. But I would say dress up is important to look the part in cross. Back in the day, the facial hair would have been very important. There's some crazy sideburns, mustaches, you name it. The hair was important. That's a big feature as well. And yeah, footwear. I would say if you've got spikes, spike up. But if you don't, you'll get away with anything, especially on this course. 32, I would say. So, plan to be getting muddy and probably losing traction in a few spots and ending up hitting the ground.
Is there a bit of argy-bargy out there?
Yep. Shoulders are rubbed, as are elbows.
What about yourself? What are you going to do when it comes to the cross race on the weekend? Are you going to go full tilt? You're going to have a bit of fun? We're going to see a real good old school dress up from you?
I reckon if you're herring, I'm going to try and get behind you and breathe down your neck for a lap or two.
Oh, it's on. I'm so excited, mate. Thank you very much for coming on and helping us explain what the Lanny XC is going to be all about.
I can't wait, mate.
Awesome. All right, Rob Doyle, that is, I'm talking to here. We're talking cyclocross. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, we're on the eve of Cross Vegas. I'm reinventing Cross Vegas. Of course, there was very well-known Cross Vegas in Las Vegas. I was almost going to say Land Vegas, which is where now Cross Vegas is reappearing in Land Vegas, Lancefield, the home of the new Cross Vegas.
And the centre of the universe,
Yes,
as has been told many times.
Well, before we get into it, long time since we've been racing together. We grew up racing together. Then I was racing overseas. You were racing overseas a little bit yourself. And then we rejoined again after all these years and started riding together. And I was sort of just nitpicking what you've been up to. Over those years, you got into cross so much so that you were at the level where you were managing the Aussie team last year. Went across, managed them, took a team of young bucks over there, got your hands dirty. You just love cross, don't you? What got you involved in cross?
I think it was, sort of originally I was racing overseas and, when you're in Europe, it's hard to avoid cross. And I think also, being here, like at the time that we grew up, it was, you'd always get your European magazines like 3 months late. So by the time it got into, the time that we were sort of trying to find motivation in winter, you'd get all the cyclocross magazines that would start flowing in late. So that's probably what started it. And then, it was just something I always wanted to do. And I think I always wanted to be Belgian deep down, and as we can tell by the glass collection over there, it's
It's good. Good big glass collection. I can see an Orval glass, Duvel, Quaremont, Westmuller. We've got a Delirium in there as well. Trappist. We've got also Chimay around the back there. Oh, and Stella Artois as well. A nice little collection there. I like it.
I think there's only one thing that's probably more Belgian than cyclocross, and it's probably the correct beer in the correct glass.
Exactly. You've got a couple of bottles, one open bottle, unopened bottle of Quaremont there. We could talk beer all day, but we're not talking about beer. Well, look, what I want to quickly do is set up cyclocross. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, go back and listen to the master himself. We recorded with Sven Nys, the GOAT of cyclocross last year. But just for now, quickly, in your words too, because you're going to probably have a different view than the GOAT himself. What is cyclocross for everyone out there going, what are you even talking about?
Yeah, I think cyclocross has best been described as mountain biking, but on the wrong bike. It was a sport, it's actually quite an old sport, probably started over 100 years ago, I think in France. And then I think sort of progressed to the level of being a UCI sport in the 50s. And, so the Europeans essentially call it field riding or veldrijden, if I can butcher a Dutch accent. And then from there, it's sort of grown and evolved from what used to essentially be a steeplechase of roadies trying to do something in winter, racing between church steeples in Europe, to more sort of races around fields and through rivers and over fences, and then to what we know today, which is still in a field, but a circuit race that's sort of governed by a lot of rules, still on essentially a road bike, but with some slightly bigger tyres. yeah, that's pretty much cyclocross in a nutshell.
Well, seeing as you spoke about the tech stuff there, quickly let's run through the bikes. So, and people are hearing fields, they're hearing probably grass, mud. It's all included, isn't it? And what sort of bike then? It is a bike with drop bars, like a road bike. It's sort of to the GoMad. It does look like a road bike, but the slight differences are because now we're talking about gravel as well coming up as well. The Dirty Docker, they've got everything there, but there's differences between a cyclocross bike and a gravel bike, isn't there?
There is. Yeah. So obviously, cyclocross is a very governed sport, so it's a set of rules where gravel it can be any bike for pretty much any course. So in cyclocross, you're governed with a lot closer to a road bike. So 33mm tyres, which I think in a road sense when we started riding seemed massive, but now there's, I think, Matthew won Roubaix on 30s, so it's getting a lot closer. Handlebar width is, I think, 500 millimeters, so none of these sort of monster gravel bars that you can get out there. And apart from that, it's essentially a road bike with a slightly higher bottom bracket. Most people run their handlebars slightly higher and then a little bit shorter.
And what makes a good cross rider? What makes, like, we've got the names like Matthew Van Der Poel and Walt Van Aert and Tom Pidcock. They're the ones, of course, the GOATs, Van Nies. But, there's a million others, but I don't know. But what makes a good cyclocross rider? We've seen them transition to the road now, but in your opinion, coaching the Aussie team, there's a few good Aussies that are coming out, but when they get to Europe, it's a whole different league. What makes those guys so special?
It's just, I guess over there, cyclocross is like our AFL in winter. It's something that they're born into. You think here, when you've got students at high school playing footy, and they play footy every Saturday and whatnot, and then they've already got coaches and staff and all these things to try and get into the AFL. And a lot of places in Europe, that's how it works. There's kids like Walt Van Aert and Matthew Van Der Poel. They're not kids now, but they were at one point. That's, was their bread and butter that they were essentially born into, especially Matthew being the son of Adrie Van Der Poel, who, is one of the legends of the sport. It's probably the difference between here, where I think the scene's there's been sort of, I guess, spatterings over the last 40 years, but probably in the last 15 years. So we are starting to see a bit of a change in Australian cross, where some of the kids who were really young when the scene started here, we're starting to sort of get a little bit more traction on the international scene, but still going to take probably another decade of that sort of vibe that, actually draws people in at a young age, because there's sort of some, for people our age, as you would, when you went and did that session in Bâle, you just can't learn some of those skills when you're a bit older, where, a kid who has no fear can suddenly desensitize themselves to all that stuff very early.
It's second nature to them. And what you're alluding to there is last year I was really lucky to be able to go across and ride with Sven Nys at his own academy and learn essentially the ins and outs of cyclocross. I went and trained with his team in the forest, and I got so schooled. And it wasn't because I wasn't strong enough. Yes, I wasn't strong enough, but I wasn't so far off the mark physically, but technically I was just worlds away, and stuff that they knew. Yes, you're probably thinking like, yeah, you've ridden a bike for all those years, but it was just little intricate things that made me so slow. I got around the course okay, but at a completely different speed to these guys.
Yeah, it's just sort of the finesse. And, when you think about what makes a good cyclocross rider, it's really that mixture of like power and skill. But then when you think about, those top guys, they've got both power and skill. And, there's people that will look at like your Matthew and your Walt, and you'll go, oh, Matthew's a more skillful rider, but Walt's a more powerful rider. But at the end of the day, like, they're both ridiculously powerful and ridiculously skilled. So it's really the 1% or even 0.5% differences that will make some courses, slightly more advantageous to one of them.
Let's talk about outside the racing now, because I think this is the fun part. And I think this is what everyone's going to enjoy the most about Dirty Docker is the atmosphere. That's what I loved about going across here. I went across and watched one of the super prestiges in Belgium, which is their own little series they've got going there. And I mean, think of carnivals and times it by about 20. This thing was out of control. There was a nightclub in a tent there. They didn't even care that the racing was on. They couldn't even know about it. They went there and just got pissed and had fun. And then there was people on the course loving the racing, and it was just packed. It was so cool. I want to try and create that at Cross Vegas up in Lanny. Of course, we'll be a million miles from what they have at the Super Prestige, but we'll get our own vibe going. But that's also the thing, isn't it, around a cross race?
Yeah, well, especially in Europe, it's I'm sort of lucky enough to have experienced European cross as a rider, as a staff member, and then just as one of those people in the disco tent at 9 a.m. in the morning. And it is, it's an amazing vibe. You've got, and some of those races have up to 50,000 people, which is, I don't know how many times the population of Lancefield, but, all jammed in, all having a great time. They know every rider's name from the juniors to the pros, and they're just fully invested in everything that's happening around them, but most of all, the beer tent.
Well, let's talk about Cross Vegas. The event that we've got going on at the Dirty Docker this year, it's slightly different because, okay, there is the serious racing stuff and the scene in Australia, that does exist. There is a cyclocross season. We're right at the end of that. The Nationals were just a few weeks ago. And Cross Vegas is tapping onto the end of that. But I'm doing things a little bit different because I want to make things a little bit more inclusive. I've got you involved. You're helping me design the course. We've been around. We've scouted it out. We're including a few things I think that are from cross races, but you can tell me otherwise. What have we created up at Cross Vegas?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but I don't think there's many cross races out there where you jump through a horseshoe.
A giant horseshoe.
Horseshoe. No, I think what we've created is, definitely has some elements of those European off-camber, muddy sort of cross races, but we've put in, I think, some more features that are, I guess, more representative of you, like the party, almost nightclub section, weaving through the glamping.
And that's got elements back to what we're talking about over at, that I know they have the nightclubs at the Belgian races. Okay, we can't jam pack, 500 people into a tent, but we're going to create that feel too.
Yeah, we're just going to put them all in the forest and then ride a bike race through it, which will be, I think, amazing. But it's I think the course itself it's a bit tricky with the running on it, the same course. Hopefully we don't break too many ankles while we're trying to make a cross course out of it. But there's the Maxis mud pit. There's, as we said, the horseshoe. There's stairs. There's ups, there's downs, there's a water feature, there's which is a good way to wash your bike when we go back to the origins of the sport where the mechanics would wash the bike in the river. It's pretty close to that, but I think it's more definitely about vibe. There's like no rules or restrictions on bikes. It means that anyone who's in Lancefield or even doing the next day can get involved.
That's what it's about. Like, it's trying to get people to enjoy cross. And, maybe in the future we will make it a sanctioned race and get all those rules in. But for this year, it's all in. The same course will be used, as we know, for the cross-country run. So we've tried to make it both, applicable in some kind of way. And it's going to be about 2 kilometre course with some features, like some jumping features. There's little stairs in it. There's a small hill. There's the water feature, as you said. What other things do we need to include when you're thinking about a cross race? What rules am I essentially breaking when it comes to an official race and what Cross Vegas we're trying to do?
Yeah, well, I think the rules that are probably being thrown out the window is, I think there's some pretty narrow parts on the course as we do weave through that nightclub. I think at one point we go through some tents, which probably doesn't have the width restrictions on it. There's probably some technicalities around how many barriers we have in. We don't have a lot, but we probably have one more than we probably should. And then actually one thing I was thinking this morning is we haven't even thought about pits yet. So we probably need to do something about that. But I think overall, maybe a little bit short. It'll be a little bit fast. That's the point of the whole exercise.
And typically in cross races, the way you normally do it is, what do they race time-wise over there? Because up in Cross Vegas, we're keeping it relatively short. We want it to be an element of an exhibition race. We don't want people out there riding for hours and hours. It's going to be 40 minutes plus 3 laps. So that will take them around about 50 minutes in time, 2 kilometre course. How does that stand up compared to a real cyclocross race?
Look, I think, for the women's race on the weekend, it'll probably be spot on. Their race is usually a target time of around 50 minutes. But for the men, it's usually, an hour or a bit over. And in traditional cross, it's usually a multiple of the first lap. So if you do a 10-minute first lap, then it'll be a 6-lap race and vice versa, where, it can get a little bit out of control. I think there was one a few years ago where they did a very slow first lap and then the race was over in half an hour when they all decided to turn it on straight after. So it'll be, I think it'll be close. We'll see.
What are some tips for people out there who are thinking about starting for the event? And look, like we said, there's no restrictions, but if you could choose, specifics now, knowing the course, what are some technical things you would like to, if you were going up, and well, you will be up there racing, what are some things you're going to probably include? Is it going to be sort of thick tread on your bike? You want to have a lot of grip? What are some great things you could probably get yourself ready for?
Well, it's a real rabbit hole in cyclocross as soon as we start talking about tyres and tyre pressures and whatnot. I think there's no perfect answer. It's always about what sort of works for you best and what you think works for you best over the course. I haven't decided if I'll just be lazy and run my gravel wheels from the next day or whether I'll go all out. I think, you've told me that Lancefield's always sunny, always beautiful. It's the centre of the universe. Where would you rather be? So surely I'll just run really fast sand tyres, maybe even road tyres, so I can just champagne cycle around the course.
Why don't you tell everyone about when we scouted the course? What kind of weather we were greeted with that day?
It was beautiful. It was like a Belgian summer. It was, I don't even know, probably 100 km/h winds, a pressing rain, 50 metres visibility.
I've never seen it like that ever up there.
It was at one point that you're like, oh, this is as bad as it gets. All made worth it from the beers and lunch afterwards. I just put it all out of my memory and went, gee, Lancefield's a great place.
Well, it's great to get Cross Vegas back up and running, Rob. I'm so excited to have you help me design the course. It's going to be all in fun. We're going to make sure of that, aren't we?
We definitely are. If there's one thing that we'll have is a lot of vibe.
Awesome. All right, we've just stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, have a coffee out here on the main street of Wellington Street outside the Map Lab. Vandy, let's talk gravel.
Yes, we're back in gravel. What is gravel?
Well, do you know what it is?
I mean, I don't think anyone knows what it is.
Should we read I've got an actual definition that I found. Gravel is a cycling discipline which tends to describe a drop bar bike on an unpaved road or trail. It's somewhere between road cycling and cross-country mountain biking. It can be anything from a gravel dirt road, rail trail to single track in a forest, and everything in between.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a literal definition, isn't it? It's a funny one because you and I have been around cycling for so many years, and the rise of gravel has only really come up in the last few years. I was riding on dirt roads on a 26-inch hardtail mountain bike with V-brakes, in the 90s and early 2000s.
Was that gravel?
Well...
No, it was mountain biking.
No, it's yeah, we just called it mountain biking, but we were riding on gravel roads. So I think that sort of thing, the increase in the different types of bikes, like there's race gravel bikes, there's adventure gravel bikes, there's bike touring bikes, and then... people are actually riding in the Gravel World Championships on slick 40mm road tyres. And that's the tyre choice they're using because it depends on where you're riding. It's so diverse, gravel. It's really hard to define specifically what it is.
Where did it actually come from? How did it all start? Is it something that stemmed from cyclocross, or has it come from road cycling, or has it come from mountain biking? And where do you think it's actually come from?
Jeez, that's a mouthful. I don't know. Like, as I said earlier in the intro when we were chatting, I think it really is like a bit of a common ground for road riders and mountain bikers, mostly cross-country mountain bikers, to come together and ride as a community. I've got a very good friend who's a downhill mountain biker. He's just got a new gravel bike and he's addicted to gravel riding. And he would never have raced like a cross-country race before, but he's entering heaps of gravel events. I think it's just really fun. And I always come back to it, and it's like, it's a format that people are enjoying doing at this current moment. And I mean, cyclocross was really fun when they first started it, and now it's lost that energy, and gravel seems to have kind of taken over.
I tend to think that the cyclocross still stands on its own. These are really hardcore races. It's a real specific skill, and that similarity, even though it seems similar, cyclocross and gravel are quite separate. Gravel for me lends its more of itself to a bit of a road cyclist, someone who can, go for a longer distances. They don't necessarily have to be technically that skillful. Yes, it's handy, but that's not the end all. With cyclocross, you really do need to be technically skillful. And I would argue also cross-country mountain biking also. So it's almost like a a fun version of road cycling in a way, and a safer version of road cycling because, especially like, okay, if you're racing in the World Tour, that's a bit different because closed roads and everything. But if you're just riding around cities or even where you live, and I know everyone who's going to agree, and if you haven't tried riding on dirt roads, I'm sure you're going to find this out too, is that all of a sudden you feel this edge taken off, this pressure. I don't know if you get this, but you're riding on a road, you find yourself going, oh, if I can just push a bit harder, the cars won't notice if I'm riding at 31k an hour or 32. They don't care, but you feel this pressure. You go on the dirt roads, it's like, oh, I can just cruise. No one's up my ass.
And it's like mountain biking. You're getting out in nature. Like when you're riding on gravel roads, those roads are normally in beautiful places. So it really works. Like a lot of people are doing a lot more gravel riding in Melbourne or like using bike paths to get out to nice gravel routes and just enjoy being out there.
Well, let's talk about the top tier because just on the weekend we had the World Championships and we might as well unpack that a little bit. That was in Belgium, in Leuven, a ferocious race. And that's the funny thing. Gravel spans so far. You've got the top tier, which is the World Gravel Series, and that was the World Championships, where it is essentially road racing on dirt.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe to see the tyre setups that people have. Or you've got the Jumbo crew with the self-inflating tyres. Did you see this with the crazy hubs?
The Dugast, yeah.
Yeah, but then they can like drop the pressures and then over the space of a kilometre with a sacrifice of 4 watts, they can put a full bar of pressure in, which is 14 or whatever PSI, back in their tyres. I just hadn't seen tech like that ever, and it'll be super interesting to see where that goes. Stuff like that, like, because you go through the rough, sort of technical gravel, dirt, forest roads, and you want lower pressures, but then you get in the open road and you want to have your tyres nice and firm again. So,
coming from a mountain bike background, Paul, and you're going to know a hell of a lot more about tyre pressure, and I feel like road cyclists are now becoming a bit more educated in that area, but for mountain biking especially, that's a big part of the game, and cyclocross. Tell us a little bit about why you do run lower pressures and how important it really is, and what's the fine point where it's too low and the negative, and where it's too high.
Oh, tyres and tyre pressures. The amount of time I've talked and thought about tyres and tyre pressures, I'd get a degree, I reckon. But I guess the lower the tyre pressure you can get, the more traction you get to a certain point where the tyre might start folding or compressing so much that you'll hit the rim. And they've seen it in mountain bike where they put in like a foam insert to say you can run lower pressures. That it gets overly technical, doesn't it, Mitch? You get very lost in it all, but I'd say it's just one of those ones where you want to find out the tyre pressure that works for you. Like, I'm a heavier rider, like I'm 100 kilos, so I need to run higher pressures, obviously, compared to, say, a very light, petite human who can get away with the really low pressures. And if you're also riding aggressively, then you'll compress your tyres more, obviously. So it's one of those things you have to just figure out what works for you.
So is it all about cornering and that kind of traction, or is it also when you're going straight, the rolling resistance can be also beneficial when you're rolling over rocks and small little bumps in the road? They're going to be absorbed better and actually hence allow you to go faster, because if the pressure's too hard, you're sort of going to be pinballing across them. Is that right?
Yeah, tyre pressure, the school of thought has changed a bit recently where people are going lower and lower and lower, even on road bikes, which is, quite interesting, because it used to be the school of thought you put in like 120 PSI or more, wasn't it, really? Like, harder tyres are faster tyres, but they've figured out that that's not actually the case now.
Well, let's talk about some other tech, because the guys from the Worlds were running a whole range of tyre widths as well, because now we're talking gravel widths, gravel and tyres. So, even Marianne Vos, who won...
I did want to say, let's acknowledge the Dutch dominance in the gravel worlds with Vos and Mathieu van der Poel. I'm half Dutch myself, so I sort of claim these victories as our own countrymen for me.
The thing is, they couldn't mean more different. She was running almost like a cyclocross setup, which is about, as we heard from Rob, 33 mil.
Yep.
And Mathieu van der Poel, he was running something a bit more similar. Something I've been suggesting for the Dirty Docker is somewhere between 38. He was on a 38 mil.
Yep.
And I'm been suggesting a lot of people ride the 40 or 42 mil width, because Again, we're not a race, so if you can have a bit more comfort, a bit more control, why not?
Well, I think I'm going to run 50s just for fun. I've still got the tyres, the Overland Schwalbes that I had in the desert race a few weeks ago. I'll just keep those on. Why not? We're not trying to race for sheep stations.
And it doesn't slow you down that much. It's not like you're suddenly out there and just like grinding away. It really does add a lot more, I think, a lot more fun to doing, say, the Dirty Docker. It's not overly technical.
Yeah, what sort of terrain are we going to be going through?
We've got a whole mix of stuff. We've got just your standard Aussie back dirt roads, which is then going to go through the Cobawsome Forest, which is a beautiful sort of pacted gravel road.
Yep.
But there's 4-wheel drive tracks in there too, so
bit more rough.
Make sure you got your gravel shoes on, because there's one sector that I know I can ride up, but I would say that it's only a short sector.
It's always good to have those sections that are super challenging, and it's like getting to the top is the main challenge, because you can't even really think then. You're just focused on completing the task at hand.
It's a nice challenge. We go then over to Tubarak, and there's some fantastic granite sort of gravel over there, pea gravel, almost reminds me of Strada Bianchi. And we head back through the forest, Cobawsome Forest, and down a cheeky surprise for everyone back into Lancefield.
In the Cobawsome. And there's a range of distances. We didn't even get to cover that in the intro.
We didn't know. We've got a little Laney Loop, 15K for just the newbies and some kids and people who just sort of want to test the waters. We've got the 40, the Pot.
The Pot, named after different beer sizes in Victoria.
Yes. We've got the Schooner, which is the 80.
Nice.
And we've got the Pint.
The big dog.
The big dog. What I say is like the way I've sort of done it is, you know what, you're not sure if you want a beer yet, so you just have a pot, you just want to test the waters. You're happy, a good size is a Schooner, you know you're going to get through it, that's pretty good.
Ideal.
But the Pint is something you know you're going to have to commit towards, and it will be a struggle.
What's the length of the Pint?
115 kilometres.
115. Nice. That's good.
But back to the tech, the final tech I guess we can take out of this is, look, the course isn't over technical. There's a lot of things that will get you around this course. I'd even say you get around this on a 33 mil, right up to 50 like you're going to ride, and everything in between will be really worth it.
I mean, at the end of the day, just get involved. just run what you brung. Whatever's sitting in the shed, even a road bike, you can probably bumble around with the road tyres on if you want. It won't be fun, but you'd make it. Probably a couple of flat tyres.
Where do you think the gravel scene is now, and where do you think the gravel scene is going? Because we did speak about the World Cup level, you know, the World Series and obviously the World Championships.
A lot of road riders in the World Championships.
But there's a great series also over in the US called the Lifetime Grand Prix, which is a mix of mountain bike and gravel, which taps into all the great gravel events over there, but they've made a race out of it.
Yeah.
And this is something they're tapping into, not just road riders doing. These are pioneers, riders who are sort of making a living out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with gravel, whether it becomes more serious and more race-focused, or it can have this coexistence with these fun events like they had Gears and Beers last weekend in Wagga Wagga, where it's just about riding bikes and having a beer. And your event, Dirty Docker, same thing. Beechworth Granite Classic. But then they've got 7 over in Nannup in Western Australia. They've got the World Championships coming up there in the next couple of years. So people could actually go and have a proper crack at trying to win a gravel world title in Australia. So I don't know where it's going. It's sort of evolving into its own little thing, but I'm enjoying the variation in the events, like your own.
I think, yeah, very much so. And I think like back to a race like Unbound, this is almost the premier gravel event now, the race that everyone looks towards and wants to watch, and they've taken it to a new level.
They get all the Europeans flying over for it now, and they're trying to have a crack because it's got this prestige.
Where do you want to see it go? That's probably the question. Like, I was speaking to Ian Boswell about this, and gravel, in his mind, Bos, if I'm wrong, let me know, but he was saying, it's changing. It is becoming a bit more like road and a bit more professional. Is that the right direction of it? Was gravel more about a sort of fend for yourself, a bit more pioneer style, like you learn how to, a bit more, I guess, old school mountain biking, from what I understand, you can tell me if I'm wrong, where you learn how to mechanic your bike. You didn't have the whole lot of staff and stuff around you. You had to rely on, teammates and things like that to get it done.
I think it'll lose some of the community feel if bigger teams try and make it too serious and professional. It needs to have this quirky alternative vibe to it, in my mind, to keep it the special space that it's... Because we've got, things like the Dirty Warnie coming up, and that's obviously like for the people who just want a full day smashing themselves on the bike, or Gravelista as well, another UCI one. I know all the racers will be looking at that one in Seymour, and it's just this... We've got this really nice patch coming up of a bunch of gravel events back to back.
Well, more importantly, we've first of all got the Dirty Docker.
Yes.
Paul, you're going to be up there.
Can't wait. It's going to be terrific.
I can't wait to share a dirty pail with you.
It sounds a bit saucy.
Guys, and I can't wait to see everyone up there. If you're overseas and you can't get there, I'm sorry, but you will hear about it, no doubt. I'm excited, mate.
Oh, it's going to be a ripping weekend.
Well, guys, did that get you G? Did that get you excited? If you entered already, you're going to be loving this, because that is what you're looking forward to. If you haven't entered, get on board. And if you can't enter because you're overseas or you're away this weekend, I feel sorry for you, but hopefully we'll be back next year so you can come down and get involved next time. Like I said at the top of the episode, get down to the Map Lab tomorrow for the launch party. Like I said, there's going to be heaps of goodies in the rider packs, plus a special drop only to the people who come to the Map Lab. Something from Map is going to be dropped in your rider pack tomorrow. Plus, of course, the Dirty Pail. Guys, you know all about it. I'll see you down the Map Lab tomorrow. And if not, I'll see you up at the specialised Dirty Docker on the weekend. Cheers, guys.
That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend, Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.